I stopped having casual sex at what I would consider the prime of my life. My 23-year-old self would probably be having a complete mental breakdown watching this video, like genuinely. He'd probably be crying, he'd probably be yelling, throwing a tantrum at me, because at 29 years old, I'm in the strongest place I've ever been in so far. I've lost over 60 pounds. I have more money than I've ever had. I have more confidence than I've ever had. I'm more comfortable in my masculinity than I've ever been in. I've learned how to dance in a way that can and has turned women on. And the crazy part is, the compound interest of becoming that version of myself has been absolutely ridiculous. The opportunities, the attention, the confidence, the ability to connect with women. 23-year-old me would look at my life right now and think, dude, you made it. You unlocked the cheat code. And then I tell him, yeah, but I actually decided not to use it. And he'd lose his mind. Because at the exact point in my life where casual sex probably could have been the easiest it's ever been, I chose to stop having it. And I know how that sounds. I know some people might watch this and immediately think, wait, why? You're young. You're in your prime. You're telling me you're choosing less? And honestly, that's exactly why I want to talk about this. Because this video isn't me telling you what you should do with your life. This isn't me saying I'm better than anyone. This isn't me saying there's one right way to approach sex. This is me sharing a path that I've been walking. Because I genuinely believe there are people out there who have started quietly asking themselves the same questions I was asking. Questions like, is this actually fulfilling me? Is this actually the kind of connection I want? Why do I sometimes feel more empty after something that was supposed to make me feel connected? And I think there are a lot of people who feel this tension, but don't really have anywhere to talk about it. Because the second you question casual sex, people can make assumptions. They might assume it's religious. They might assume it's trauma. They might assume it's insecurity. They might assume you're judging other people. And I understand why. Because sex is such a deeply personal part of being human. But that wasn't where this came from for me. This didn't come from religion. This didn't come from shame. This didn't come from some hatred toward my past. Actually, I feel more accepting of my past than I ever have. Because every version of me was trying to find something, trying to feel something, trying to connect. And I don't hate that person. I actually have a lot of compassion for him. But I think he was looking for connection in places where sometimes he was just finding temporary relief. And that realization changed everything. Because when I removed casual sex from my life, something unexpected happened. The fog started clearing. The fog clearing, the best way I can explain this journey is like driving with a fogged up windshield. You can still drive. You can still move forward. You can still have exciting moments. You can even convince yourself you know exactly where you're going. But your vision isn't completely clear. Everything is slightly distorted. And for me, casual sex was sometimes part of that fog. Not because sex itself is bad. I actually believe sex is one of the most beautiful, connected human experiences we get to have. But when I was using physical intimacy to feel wanted, to feel validated, to chase a dopamine hit, to avoid sitting with uncomfortable emotions, I wasn't always seeing clearly. I wasn't always seeing the person in front of me clearly. And honestly, I wasn't always seeing myself clearly either. Because here's what I realized. When you remove the thing that gives you the fastest version of connection, you have nowhere to hide. You have to actually ask, why am I attracted to this person? Do I actually admire who they are? Do our values line up? Would I still want this person in my life if the physical part disappeared? And those questions are uncomfortable, but they're also incredibly freeing. Because suddenly, you're not just asking, can this person give me an amazing experience? You're asking, is this someone I actually want to build an amazing life with? And that was a huge shift for me. Because I realized I wasn't just trying to find the right person, I was trying to become the right person. I'm going to use an analogy here. I call this the baked Alaska. And the thing I started realizing is sex was never supposed to be the entire meal. It was always supposed to be the cherry on top. And I know that sounds like a strange sentence coming from a guy making a video about sex, but stay with me. Because I actually think this analogy explains it better than anything else. Think about a baked Alaska, a really good one. The magic of a baked Alaska isn't just the flame on the outside. It isn't just the final presentation. The magic is everything underneath, the layers, the ingredients, the recipe, the time it took to actually create something that works together. There's intention behind it. There's patience behind it. There's a process. And then, yes, there's a flame. There's the moment where everything comes together. And there's a cherry on top. The cherry is great. Nobody is mad about the cherry. The cherry is fun. The cherry is exciting. The cherry is a beautiful addition. But nobody eats a cherry and says, wow, that was the most incredible dessert experience of my life. The cherry is meaningful because of everything underneath it. I think that's what I had backwards for a long time. I treated sex like it was the dessert, like it was the thing that proved connection existed. Like if the chemistry was strong enough, if the attraction was powerful enough, if the night was magical enough, then maybe that meant something deeper was there. And sometimes it was. I'm not saying physical chemistry doesn't matter. It absolutely does. I think attraction is beautiful. I think desire is beautiful. I think the masculine and feminine connection is one of the most incredible things we experience as humans. But what I realized is the foundation matters. Because without the foundation, the cherry doesn't save the dessert. 4 seasons. And this is where I started thinking differently about dating. Because one of the biggest things I realized was, how can I fully know someone if I haven't experienced them through all 4 seasons? Not just the exciting season, not just the honeymoon season, not just the we're both trying to impress each other season. I mean the real seasons. The stressful season, the boring season, the uncomfortable season, the season where someone's character actually reveals itself. Because everyone can show up beautifully when everything's easy. Everyone can be charming on a perfect date. Everyone can create chemistry. Everyone can create a moment. But who are you when things don't go your way? Who are you when you're frustrated? Who are you when there's conflict? Who are you when there's nothing physical distracting us from actually seeing each other? Those questions started becoming way more important to me because I realized I didn't want someone who I had chemistry with. I wanted someone whose character I respected, someone whose values aligned with mine, someone where we could build something together. And the crazy thing is, removing casual sex actually made dating more exciting, not less, because every interaction became information. Every conversation revealed something. Every boundary created clarity, rebuilding trust with myself. And this is probably the biggest thing I've gained from this entire journey. It wasn't about sex, it was about trust. Because I think a lot of us underestimate how powerful it is when we repeatedly ignore our own intuition. When we say, I know this probably isn't what I want, but we do it anyway. When we say, I know I'm looking for something deeper, but we convince ourselves it's fine because it's fun. When we feel something in our gut, but then the excitement, chemistry, or desire becomes louder than our wisdom. And I've done that. I've been that person. I've had experiences where I know deep down I wanted more from someone, but I continued anyway. I've had experiences where I knew there was no future, but I chased a physical connection anyway. I've had moments where I was trying to convince myself I was okay with something because admitting I wasn't would mean I had to change. And I think that's the hardest part, because sometimes the truth isn't hidden. Sometimes we know. We just don't want to listen. Every no was a grace. And that's why I've started looking at boundaries differently. Because every no I've given myself has actually given me something. Every no was a grace from regret. Every no was a moment where I proved to myself I can trust my own intentions. I can honor what I actually value. I don't have to trade my future peace for a temporary high. And that has been incredibly empowering, because discipline gets framed as losing something. Like, oh, you're depriving yourself. Oh, you're missing out. Oh, you're making life smaller. But what if discipline isn't always about saying no? What if sometimes discipline is how you finally hear yourself clearly? What if removing the thing that constantly pulls your attention away allows you to finally see what was there the whole time? That's what happened for me. The more I removed distractions, the more I understood myself. The more I understood myself, the more clearly I understood what kind of love I actually wanted. And this isn't about judging anyone. And I want to say this because I think it matters. I don't want anyone watching this to hear someone is telling me I'm living wrong. That is not what this is. People have different experiences, different values, different beliefs, different paths. And I respect that. The reason I'm sharing this is because I know there are people who are quietly feeling what I felt. People who are wondering, is there something deeper? Is there another way? Would I learn something about myself if I stopped chasing the shortcut? And if that's you, I just want you to know, you're not weird for asking that question. I'm going to tell you, why was I scared to share this video? And honestly, this video is one of the hardest videos I've ever made, because every time I talk about this topic, I know what's coming. I know there are going to be people who misunderstand it. I know there are going to be people who hear judgment where I'm trying to share my own vulnerability. And I'll be honest, that hurts, because this isn't a topic I came to casually. I've wrestled with this a lot. I've had people close to me tell me, you're just overcompensating for your past. You're doing this because of trauma. You're restricting yourself. You're missing out on being young. And I understand why people might think those things, because honestly, if I was still the 23-year-old version of myself, I might have thought the same thing. I might have looked at someone making this video and thought, dude, just go relax, go have fun. But here's the thing. I've actually brought those questions into my own accountability of therapy. I've challenged myself. I've looked honestly at my own motives. I've asked, am I doing this because I'm afraid? Am I doing this because I'm trying to prove something? Am I doing this because I'm ashamed of my past? And every time I come back to the same answer, no, this isn't about rejecting something. This isn't about rejecting any version of me. It's about choosing something, choosing clarity, choosing intention, choosing a relationship with myself where I actually trust my own values. Now, there's a spiritual side to it, and I want to talk about this part carefully, because for me, this spiritual component to all of this, but I want to be really clear. This did not start from someone handing me a rule book. This did not start from fear. This did not start from someone told me I should do this, so I have to. Actually, I think the reason so many spiritual traditions talk about discipline around sex is because they recognize something deeply human. When something has that much power over us, it's worth approaching it with awareness, because sex is powerful. That's not a bad thing. It's actually what makes it beautiful. But anything powerful requires responsibility. And for me, removing casual sex created a level of clarity I hadn't experienced before, because I couldn't hide behind chemistry anymore. I couldn't use physical connection as proof that something deeper existed. I had to actually ask, is this love? Is this alignment? Is this something that brings me closer to who I want to become? And that process has made me feel closer to what I personally believe love is supposed to be. Not because I'm more pure than anyone else, not because I'm above anyone else, but because I feel more aligned with myself. The hard part about choosing this path, and I want to acknowledge something, this path is hard, like genuinely hard, no pun intended, because sex is not something small that we're talking about. It's one of the most powerful human experiences we have. It's connection, it's pleasure, it's intimacy, it's vulnerability. It's beautiful. So choosing to slow down and approach it differently, that takes discipline. And sometimes I wish I could convince myself it wasn't necessary. I wish I could convince myself that maybe I'm overthinking this, that maybe I should just go with the flow. Maybe I'm making things harder than they need to be. But every time I come back to this path, every time I choose intention over impulse, I feel something. I feel stronger. I feel clearer. I feel more connected to myself. And that's the thing. The reward hasn't been that I don't want sex anymore. The reward is that sex no longer controls me. The difference between desire and direction. Because desire is not the enemy. I think desire is incredible. I don't want to become someone who doesn't feel attraction. I don't want to become someone who doesn't appreciate beauty. I don't want to remove that part of being human. I want to understand it. I want to direct it. Because there's a difference between I don't feel desire and I feel desire, but I'm choosing what kind of person I want to become. That second one, that's where I found freedom. What I want for dating culture. And this is the part I really hope people understand. I'm not sharing this because I want everyone to date the way I date. I'm sharing this because I wish there was more space for a conversation like this. Because sex has always been a complicated topic. We can talk about it everywhere, online, in entertainment, in jokes, in private conversations, but how often do we actually talk about our values around sex? How often do we sit with trusted people and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm wondering if this is actually what I want. I'm trying to understand what kind of relationship I'm building. A lot of people are figuring this out alone. And I don't think we're meant to do that. I think we need community. I think we need honest conversations. I think we need spaces where people can explore these questions without instantly being labeled. Because maybe someone chooses casual sex. Maybe someone chooses commitment. Maybe someone is somewhere in the middle. But underneath it, underneath all of it, I think most people are looking for the same thing: to feel loved, to feel known, to feel connected. And I think that's a conversation worth having. The kind of person I want to be with, the kind of person I want to build with. And there's one more thing I've noticed through this journey. The kind of person I'm attracted to has also changed. And again, not because I'm judging anyone, not because someone who approaches dating differently is less valuable. That's not it. It's because my values have become clearer. And now, when someone uses sexual chemistry as the main way to create connection early on, it's not really what pulls me in anymore. And I want to be careful with how I say that, because attraction and chemistry matter. They're beautiful. You need that. They're part of being human. But when someone tries to skip the foundation and jump straight to the most intimate parts, something in me notices. Not with disgust, not with judgment, more like a feeling of, man, I wonder what we're missing by rushing this. Because how can we cross one of the deepest boundaries two humans can have before we've even experienced the ordinary moments? Before we've seen how we handle disagreements? Before we know how we support each other when life gets difficult? Before we've seen each other through different seasons? I think that matters. Because the person you choose to build a life with, you're not just choosing their best moments. You're choosing their patterns. You're choosing their character, their values, their way of moving through the world. And I want someone who is intentionally walking toward that as well. Someone who either shares this value or at least understands why it matters to me. Because boundaries are interesting. It's a lot easier to be brought down from a standard than it is to be brought up to one. And I don't say that from a place of superiority. I say that from knowing myself, knowing my weaknesses, knowing where I've gone before. And I know the kind of person I want to become. A message to my younger self. So, 23-year-old me. I know you're probably still upset. I know you're probably looking at me thinking, bro, what are you doing? You finally got here. You finally became the guy who could have all these experiences, and now you're choosing not to. And I understand. I really do. Because you were looking for something. You wanted connection. You wanted validation. You wanted to feel wanted. You wanted to feel like you mattered. And I don't blame you for that. Those are deeply human desires. But what I want you to know is the thing you're searching for, you don't find it by constantly chasing the next person who makes you feel desired. You find it by learning how to trust yourself. You find it by becoming someone who can sit with desire without being controlled by it. You find it by building a life where love isn't something you need to grab onto because you're afraid it might disappear. Love becomes something you can actually choose. And man, I wish you could see what every no has given me. Every no was a grace from regret. Every no gave me clarity. Every no strengthened my relationship with myself. Every no showed me that I'm capable of choosing something deeper. The final realization, if I had to summarize this entire journey into one sentence, it would be this. I am rebuilding trust with the purity of love. Because when there's no physical transaction happening, when there's no chasing the hormonal highs, when there's no using another person to temporarily escape yourself, you're left with something much more honest. You're left with the question, Do we actually see each other? Do we actually value each other? Do we actually choose each other? And to me, that's where the magic is. Not because sex isn't beautiful. It is. But because when sex is built on top of something real, it becomes even more beautiful. It becomes the cherry on top of the baked Alaska. Come at me in the comments for that analogy if you haven't had baked Alaska before. It becomes the flame after the foundation has already been built. It becomes an expression of something that already exists, not a replacement for something that's missing. Here's an invitation to you. And honestly, the reason I finally made this video is because I've never really seen people talk about this in a way that felt like me. Not from a place of shame, not from a place of superiority again, not from a place of everyone needs to do this, just from a place of, hey, I went down this road and this is what I found. And maybe you're someone who's been feeling the same thing. Maybe you're questioning casual sex. Maybe you're trying to understand your own values. Maybe you're already on this path and you felt alone. Maybe you've chosen this path as well, and you're looking for people who actually understand why. If that's you, I want you to know you're not the only one, first off. I think there are more people having these conversations internally than we realize. They just don't always have a place to say them out loud. So I want this channel to become that place. A place where we can talk about love, connection, discipline, masculinity, relationships, and becoming better humans. Without shame. Without judgment. Without pretending we have everything figured out. Just honest conversations. Because I think we all deserve a community where we can explore what actually makes us feel alive. So if any part of this resonated with you, I genuinely love to hear your thoughts. That's all. Not because I want everyone to agree with me. I actually love hearing different perspectives. But because I think these conversations matter. And maybe there's someone else reading the comments who has been feeling the exact same thing, but thought they were alone. Let's build that village, one honest conversation at a time.